Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good whatever time you are watching this. My name is Dr. Nnamdi Henacho. Welcome to another episode of Thriving Beyond Borders. This is a weekly session with the African American Collective where we just talk about, share resources, tools, and meaningful information to help us thrive in our newfound home. So if you are African, if you are just an immigrant, Black diaspora, then these conversations are for you. That's what we try to do on this platform. If you have been following us for a while now and you have gained any value but you have not subscribed, I beseech thee, my brethren, please go ahead and subscribe. We need your subscription to continue to increase and extend our reach. That is how we continue to are able to continue to do what we do. So please go ahead and subscribe. If you are just joining for the first time, thank you. I encourage you to explore all the other videos on our content platform on LinkedIn, on YouTube, wherever you're watching this from. I promise you will be enlightened and you'll find plenty of value, and then you can subscribe. How about that? Sounds fair? But welcome. Today we'll be having an exciting conversation, right? We're getting into it right off. So we've been told, you have been told your whole career to network, right? But here is what they did not tell you. Most of what people call networking is just collecting contacts. And today I want to show you the difference between a network and a web. Networking is beyond collecting contacts. So my topic today is your network is not working if it's not reciprocal. Your network is not working if it is not reciprocal. Everyone we used to be little will say respect is reciprocal. The people still say that respect is reciprocal, and it just means it has to be bi-directional, right? It benefits me and it benefits you. It is both ways. And so that is the conversation that we are getting into today. Your network is not working if it is not reciprocal. And my goal is to really provide some practical guidance today especially for African immigrants, navigating predominantly non-immigrants professional circles, right? This is, let's create a framework and establish some frameworks to help us navigate those circles effectively. All right, so let's get into it. And I want to talk about the three-level network architecture. The first one is, let's talk about what transactional networking costs you, right? Where you are, it's give and get per se. There is what I call the LinkedIn connection problem. People have 1,000 connections but zero sponsors. That means nobody is an advocate for you. Nobody is speaking your names in rooms that you can't get into. And so on your LinkedIn page, it looks like you have a lot of people. You know a lot of people, you have an extensive professional network, but none of those people in that quote-unquote network is a meaningful connection enough to get you in a room, a meaningful connection enough to get you an interview or make recommendations for you. Some of us don't have anybody on that LinkedIn profile that we have. That's 1,000 connections that you can send a connection or a recommendation request to show up on your LinkedIn that they will answer you. And that is not a good place to be, right? That is, and so that's the cost of transactional networking. Connections without sponsors, without people who are active advocates for you. And, why African immigrants are vulnerable to this, especially when it comes to, being overlooked in relationship-driven industries. It's because of this, right? There's a lot of the time, how far you go within an organization is a function of network. Yes, there's a place for skill. There's a place for excellence. There's a place for being good and great at your craft. That is all well and true. However, in a pool of intelligent people, in a pool of talented people, in a pool of experts, the differentiator becomes access. Does that make sense? Right? If you are there where everybody is at the same level as you, where everyone is super talented as you are, everybody is as qualified, and all of that, then the differentiator becomes who knows, who is friends with the boss, who is colleagues with them, who are they related to, whose child are they, whose last name, or what last name do they bear, right? And so it seems like, why is it that it gets to there's not so many of us in certain places, in certain realms, in spite of the widely known reputation of excellence that we have, right? We have the reputation of being go-getters and hard workers and all of that, and yet it almost seems like the higher it goes, the smaller, the fewer we become. even with our largest educated immigrant group, all of that stuff. It is because there is a network problem. There is not enough of us in rooms to advocate for us, to open doors for us. Even the ones that get there are trying to protect themselves and protect their doors because, again, there are few, right? And so you want to look out for yourself first before you start looking for the community, before you get kicked out of those spaces. And so we have to start this from the lower tiers and then work our way, And so as you are growing up, make sure you're not by yourself. That's just the way to keep going, doing this thing. Okay, so I'm digressing a little bit. And this is something, that we need to pay attention to. So the uncomfortable truth is you may be networking, but you're not being networked for, right? That is just the uncomfortable truth. And that is why we have to look inside and inwards. All right. So I want to talk about the 3-level network architecture. The 3-level network architecture. The first level is the connector level. These are people who introduce you to others, or people who introduce you to others, they expand your surface area. That is the, hey, meet my friend. He does IT like yourself. Introduction, that is connector. Okay, you say you do this. Okay, I know somebody. Let me give you that number. You guys should talk. Right? That introduction, making meaningful connections. You do this. All right, go. Yes, that's great. I'm glad. Let's connect. Let's stay connected. And then you share details. That is the connector level. Okay, so it's super important that we keep that in mind. So that's the first level in the network architecture. Level 2 is the collaborator level. These are people you build, who build alongside you or you build with, right? They expand your capability. So now who do you call if you want to start a business? You have the opportunity to refer somebody to come in. People you're building with, you want to do projects, who do you call for that? You have events, programs, initiatives you want to drive. The people that you can work with to make that happen. That's the collaborator level. Very important to have these people, right? Where, we build AIM, it's something that I've leaned heavily on. Connectors that have become collaborators, meaningful connections that have been made. Hey, now this is what he does, and so now it goes from there to, hey, let's do. I'm trying to do this thing. I want you to. I'd love for you to come on board. And so collaborator is, hey, come on board. This is what I'm working on, right? This is this project. I need somebody who can do this. Can you, can you do something with that? That's the collaborator level. So now we have gone from just being connections and somebody introduced you to, we're doing work together. And then the third level is sponsors. And these are people who advocate for you in rooms that you're not in. These are people that expand your opportunity. And I can say, like, in the last year or so, I can say I've benefited from sponsors a lot. Just people who are, hey, this people are going and preaching the gospel of Amen. And then they're like, hey, that's the guy I told you about. I think you need to have a conversation with him. They level. I remember having a conversation earlier this year, and this is somebody made the introduction, somebody that I consider my sponsor now as I navigate this journey. And he like, hey, I need you to talk to this person. It took a minute for the connection for the introduction for us to connect, the person I was introduced to. But on the first meeting, as I talked through what we're doing, it was so easy. What you normally pitch for. They're like, send me this, send me your deck. Let's start working towards this. These are the ways I can help. They did not think about the ways that they can help you based off of that one meeting. Somebody already broke down the walls. And I know I made a good pitch, I made a good impression, but I am also not under the illusion that person came into that meeting. My good impression only confirmed what they already heard about me, about the work we're doing. And so it was easy for them to step into, how do you come to a meeting with a checklist of what I'm going to do for you guys already? That's because somebody already spoke to them about us, about me, about the work that we're doing. That is the power of sponsorship. That is what it does. I remember I got a job several years ago. This was before the pandemic. And somebody reached out to me. I had an old colleague I had worked with, but now they run their own consulting company. They were consulting for this organization, and they needed somebody. And so he goes on and says, I have this guy. I know this guy. He's great at his work. I want you to bring him in. And so this company randomly, they reach out to me on LinkedIn, and then somebody calls me. I go there, and it is the easiest interview I'm doing. Now I'm just meeting with leaders. My technical capability was already verified by somebody from my past who now had access and was calling me up and saying, hey, I know this person. I got to name what I wanted to earn. That was the first time in my professional career where I didn't have to negotiate around an offer on the table. The CTO looked at me and said, "Hey, what are you looking to earn in this position?" And that happened. To that point, that was the highest salary I had commanded. And that happened because, and so I did myself a disservice, I'll put it that way, because I went the normal, okay, if I, from my current place to the next one, what they did a percentage calculation and rates and all of that. I could have gone higher for all I know, because the number I gave them, they ended up adding a sign-on bonus to it. All right. So again, I talk about this from both, I'm giving you examples from both an entrepreneurial perspective and a career perspective, tell you that sponsors needed. There are certain places you might not get to if somebody is not advocating for you, right? Again, this was part of my TED talk. This conversation around sponsorship was something that I built into my conversation. Again, when it goes live, I can't wait to share that with you. So be on the lookout. We're going to send that out to the community, because I was speaking for us when I went on that platform. And I'll say the sponsors are earned, they are not asked for. Come from consistent demonstrated value. This is very important. The person I talked about just now, we have regularly recurring meetings every month. And from those meetings now, it's those meetings and me showing up and how I'm prepared. And every time we meet, I'm saying, hey, this is what this month has looked like. These are the things we've done. I come back and tell him, the people you introduced me to, this is how the meeting went. This is what we are. This is where we are going, right? And so it's almost like bowels of mercy are opened up, and they are willing to continue along those paths. They are willing to continue giving and pouring in, sharing access to their own resource pool, because demonstrated value over time. The person that referred me for the job I talked about was a product of quality work and partnership when we were peers, right? And so now that he elevated, I was in a position to speak of me in rooms I was not in. Now, if you go back all the way to the Bible, the reason somebody remembered the king remembered, or sent for Joseph in the Bible was because he stayed consistent interpreting dreams, even in the prison, right? And so somebody remembered, hey, when I was in this situation, there was a guy. You just had a dream. I remember having a dream of my own in the prison and this guy came and interpreted it, and everything happened exactly like he said. That was a sponsor, because now they were in a higher position of access, and you need them to say your name in those rooms. Joseph needed that butler to tell the king about him, for him to enter into his destiny, right? These relationships, like it is so important, and that is why somebody doesn't become a sponsor by you just telling them, can you be my sponsor? That's not how it works. It works by credibility, because a sponsor is taking their credibility on yours. If I tell somebody this person is great at what they do and you go and fumble, my reputation takes a hit, right? And so for sponsorship relationship to work, for that relationship capital to be built, it has to be built over consistency over time, of you showing up, of you doing meaningful work, of you demonstrating excellence and consistency, to where they can trust you to not abuse the privilege and abuse the opportunity and abuse, or hurt their reputation. And so sponsorship is not something that is it's not something that is earned, it's not given. And you do it by being consistent, demonstrating value over time. And so that's very important. Now let's quickly get into the reciprocity process. The practice of reciprocity, again, back and forth. Remember, your network is not working. If it's not working for you, it's not working. So if it's only one direction. So the first rule in that, practice of reciprocity is the give first rule, right? How to become someone others want to sponsor. That's how. It is the give first rule. In a relationship, it starts with, even for people who are ahead of you, what value can you offer them? How do you make their experience better? How can you enhance their work? Look for opportunities I remember I just recently had a meeting with a senior leader at an academic institution, and as we're talking through and everything, they talked about, these are the things that I am working on and it's of interest to me. After the meeting, the first thing my thank you is like, hey, I'm interested in that thing. I'd love to, even while we're in the meeting, and was sharing our passion and the work we're doing and all of that. And then they talked about theirs. I started looking in my head. I was thinking about, I know people in this space. I know people I can bring into the room that might be able to further this work, right? It's something that this man is passionate about. Yes, I'm trying to further our mission through this relationship. But how does this benefit? What does it benefit him to, like, what does he gain for helping me, or for helping me further our mission, right? Even though the mission doesn't serve me directly, it's still a mission that has my face on it, right, somehow. And so in that conversation, the first thought I was having was, based on what he has going on, where can I come in? Who can I introduce? What names can I bring to the table? What organizations am I a part of that will actually be beneficial to his mission? And when I replied my first email, I already started talking about the things, like, thank you for all of the conversations we had and everything. And I was already proposing, hey, there's this thing I did, it's waiting for a second meeting, but I already had a proposal on his, like, before even sending my proposal or my deck or any of those things. I already have a proposal that I want to share with him for his work, right? That is how give first. Give first. Don't be a taker, be a giver, and that's how you never lack. The second step, or the second practice, or the second thing in this practice, is the 3-touch method, right? So number one is share, one introduction, one endorsement every month for your key relationships. One share, one introduction, one endorsement. So people that are, again, key relationships, make sure your one share updates, right? This is what's going on. Or driving, I guess this is what's going on. This is what's happening. One introduction. If there's somebody or some, you can connect them to. One a month. One endorsement. Again, like, hey, highlight their work. Do those things. So every month for your key relationships, get in the habit of doing this. And then you need to do this. So this is how you audit your network with these 3 steps, right? You have to classify everybody who is in your according to this connector, collaborator, sponsor. What bucket do they fall into, right? What bucket do these people fall into? It's very, very important. So, as I recap, right, again, it's not enough to have 1,000 connections on LinkedIn or have 10,000 phone numbers. How many of those are meaningful relationships? Again, it has to be bidirectional. There has to be a level of reciprocity in the relationships. It has to be able to, your relationship should open doors for you. It should introduce you to people that you don't know that will help your work. There should be reciprocity, and like, I am, especially if you are giving value, then you should be receiving value as well. And so there has to be that. And so the levels, you need to know where people are, and that impacts how you move with them, right? It starts from the connectors. Some people are there, they introduce people to you, introduce people to them. I know somebody, so they come to you like, do you know anybody? And that's all we do. Say, do you know somebody? And I know somebody. Or, okay, do you know somebody? We know somebody. I don't know. You have people like that where your relation with them is just based on, do you know somebody? And I know somebody. Do you know somebody? I know somebody, right? And then there are the collaborators, people who you work with. Like, hey, I'm working on something. I'd love for you to be on it. How do let's partner up and do this thing. And, we see that's how, it's excellent to have people like this who you do life together, professional life together with, where you have initiatives you want to run, you have events you want to pull off, you need speakers for programs, and, I have 3, 4, 5 guys that can put together, will do, they will give this thing the value it needs. That's powerful to have. Connectors, the collaborators. And then the sponsors. Sponsors are the ones who are, they are putting you in places that, you might not otherwise have been able to get into or get. And so that's the 3 levels. Again, look through your network, make sure you are properly categorizing the people into the right buckets, and then be intentional as you try to nurture these relationships. Give first, and that's how you become somebody people want to sponsor. Make introductions, one share, one endorsement on a monthly basis, and that's how to go. All right. Again, I hope you've gained something and you're beginning to think about your head is running circles and you're thinking through all the people in your network, in your LinkedIn connections, and you're wondering, okay, how do I put and categorize all of this? So I want to hear how it's going for you. Let me know if you've gained any value. Please share this video with somebody who might, or who you feel like needs to use it. Go ahead and share with them. Let's continue to change lives within our community, and all of that. And again, been announcing this every episode, but this month, AIM Collective, the African American Collective, turns 2 years old. Let's go. 2 years of impact, of transforming lives, of giving value, across the country, across the diaspora. Honestly, we have people connected from Canada. During our women's conference, we've had over 7 countries be a part of our initiatives from the diaspora, Europe, and Europe, US, North America, South America, different countries, and even Africa, right? And so work is our reach is expanding, our work is meaningful, and we're grateful. And it's not possible without everyone who is working behind the scene. It's not possible without you who is sharing our content, who is watching, who is helping us know what people need. By just you paying attention and watching this content, we know what is important, right? We're able to gauge where things are. So thank you all so much for making this journey worth it. So now I want to make an ask, and I'm making this ask every week session this month. If this community has added value to your journey, even if today is your first time encountering us and you gain some value out of this, I want to ask you to invest in it. Invest in the collective. Visit AfricanImmigrantCollective.org to make a gift and help us reach the next 2,000 people. That is our goal, is to serve at least 2,000 members of the African diaspora here in the US. And so your contributions, your donations will make a difference, will help us get there. I am not asking you to just do it a one-time donation. I'm actually asking people to make a sign up to be like a recurring donor, right? So your $20 a month, your $50 a month, your $100 a month, your $1,000 a month, your $10 a month, whatever, which as long as it's not taking food away from the table, that what you can let go of so that we can continue to do what we do. We are constantly running programming, and of course it takes resources. We have to maintain our space. We rent out a place, we have our staff, even though majority of our leaders and we're very, very driven by volunteers, but there's, key people in day-to-day operations that we still have to, pay. So there's operational costs to running this organization. And so I am reaching out to everyone, like, let's make this work. If you feel like, if you've seen anything we've done and you feel like, man, I wish I had that. Well, maybe you don't have it. You didn't have it in your time, but there's people always coming after who could use it. Let's make sure that they have it, even if you didn't have it. And let's continue to elevate the future of the coming generation. That is what African Collective is about, empowering the African diaspora so we do not have to start from scratch. So go on our website and sign up. And then I also want to invite you to go register for the Advocacy Conference 2026. It is happening June 27th at the Gwinnett Chamber Foundation Education Room. The details are also on our website. If you go on the website, AfricanAmericanCollective.org, you'll go to events, you will see the Advocacy Policy and Advocacy Conference. Click on that and go ahead and register. You can also find the event on Eventbrite. It is June 26th. It's going to be packed and powerful. It is a free event, so we encourage you to come out and be a participant and a partaker of that incredible event. Well, I hope and I know somebody has gained some value. Thank you for listening. I will see you next week. But till then, keep driving beyond borders. God bless you.